Hello, it's Duncan. It's the Saturday evening after I published the episode on actions, calculations and data. A couple of viewers had some suggestions in the comments for how to automatically propagate the use of annotations that I introduced, in particular the requirement that only actions can call actions. So I thought I would quickly try out those suggestions while the annotations are still fresh in my mind in a bonus episode. This is going to be cheap and cheerful, so cheap that I'm not even going to bother with an anagram. To speed things up a bit, I've removed the calculation and the data annotations. Fundamentally, the default, so having them doesn't really help. That just leaves us with action, and 27 places at the moment where we use that. So starting at persisting, load items, that's marked with an action. And I think we still have the callers of these marked with actions. And we do there. Now the first suggestion is by Youssef Shoaib. Sorry, I'm an Englishman when it comes to foreign names. Youssef often picks me up on my use of the standard library, and in this case he suggests that we make action requires opt-in so we can easily find it and make it propagate up until main. So let's have a look and see what that means. Back in our annotation then, we can meta-annotate it with @requires opt-in, and we can give a message. And let's say only actions can call actions. Let's build that and see whether it has an effect. Well, it built again past all the tests. Let's see whether there are any messages. Well, nothing I'm seeing. Okay. Let's look at the callers, for example, of our persistence. So this is an action. Let's go up and find who calls that. So stock file items. That's already marked as an action. Let's just see what happens if we take that away. Aha. Okay, so now there's a warning here, and that's that only actions can call actions. So it has a problem here and here, the two saves, and that means that this is broken. And now Alt-Enter will actually allow us to propagate that up, which is quite clever. Okay, let's have a look at who calls that. Well, that's stock. That's an action, so that's fine. Let's have a look at who calls that. Now that's in our app, and we pass a method reference to our price stock list loader. So you see we've got the warning here, and we've got another one here. Load stock list is an action, and that's being used in routes for. So let's fix that one first, see what happens. What's happened is that this call, this getter I suppose, has been marked as an action. But the fact is this isn't actually an action. This routes for is a calculation. It's calculating what the route should be. Now it's true that one of the routes itself will be an action. When an HTTP request comes in, that will cause an action to happen. We'll be loading things from disk and talking across the network. But it's not true to say that this is an action itself. It's just preparing an action for later. And I think the same is true here with this price stock list loader. If we go and fix this, well, that's saying that our price loader, getting the price loader, is an action. But that's not true. We are calling code when we initialize the field, but no action is actually happening at that point. The action will only actually happen when we load the stock list. So the semantics aren't quite right here. I wonder if there's something we could do about that though. Let's look at the price stock list loader, and we'll pull on the thread of this loading, which at the moment is instant to stock list loading result, and that's the thing we know is an action. So what I'm going to try doing is making a functional interface for this loading. So we say fun interface. I'm going to call it loading. And to match this, it's going to have a single method, and we'll make that an operator fun invoke. And it will take an instant and return stock list loading result. So it's the same as this effectively. So we should be able to substitute loading in here. And you can see that compiles here. So now we should be able to mark this as action and try and build. Well, it's not building, but only with other issues we already had in tests. Let's go back to the price stock list loader. Now if we were to take this action away, you can see that the annotation actually is doing its job. Here it's saying, oh, you can't call loading here because its invoke is an action, and now this is not an action. So that's not actually a bad plan. Let's go back up to where we're calling this. Now is stock list. Now if we take this annotation away here, and this one for good measure, now we can replace this with a lambda, and we should then be able to use our loading functional interface, giving it the lambda. But that hasn't actually done the job for us, unfortunately. I feel it should do. It feels like we're getting closer, but the problem is it requires Optin, really doesn't understand about propagating through function types, it seems. And that's hardly surprising, it's not really its job. So unless I'm missing something, requires Optin is close but no cigar for annotating actions. I'm going to back that out and try the second suggestion. That second suggestion was from Jonathan Kolberg, who notes that there is a contract annotation that JetBrains give us. Now, I didn't know about this, so I went and looked it up. And here it is. The contract annotation is used for defining a contract that a method must meet. It has two attributes, value and pure. The value attribute contains clauses describing causal relationships, so there's a whole little language inside there. But it says here the pure attribute is intended for methods that do not change the state of their objects, but just return a new value. Well, that sounds like the sort of thing we're doing, so let's go and play with that. So I think what we need to do is say that as well as being an action, or instead of being an action, that stock list save to is contract pure is, in this case, the answer is false. Now if we go to the caller of that, for example, stock file items, I think it should be that if we said this is a contract pure equals true, then something should fail, because we're saying this is a pure function and it's calling an impure function. Let's see whether it does. And it doesn't, and not only doesn't it, I found no way even running inspection builds. So there are some issues here, but none of them, as far as I can see, are anything to do with these contracts. Rereading this, it says, is intended for methods that do not change the state of their objects. Well, we were starting from a function, not an object, so let's go back and let's say, well, if we would say that this was not pure, I think this is called by a method. This is actually a method, so it is attached to an object, and it's called by something that is itself a method here. So maybe adding contract pure is false here will do. But again, absolutely no effect. So maybe there's a setting that I haven't made, some sort of lever I need to pull, but I haven't managed to make these contract annotations work for me. In some ways they're promising because the documentation seems to suggest that they are about function call semantics. So they might do a better job than requires Optin. But on the other hand, the fact that we have to declare all of our calculations as pure equals true and all of our actions as pure equals false would mean that pretty much every method and function in our code base would need to be annotated in order for this to be a useful technique. So regretfully, this is another one to be rolled back. But if you know how to make it work, then please let me know in the comments. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little bonus episode. It's always a little bit frustrating when we try something and it doesn't work, but we've gained information. The good news is that I've already recorded an episode that uses context receivers to mark actions, and that does actually seem to be quite promising. If you'd like to see that episode, then please subscribe to the channel. And if you like what I'm doing, then I think you'll enjoy the book that I wrote with that price called Java to Kotlin Refactoring Guidebook, details of which are in the show notes below. Thanks for watching.